crash and burn.
Hey everybody! So tonight I'm going to be discussing the 2006 Canadian horror film known as Population 436. This is the one with Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. He was really good in it too. He plays Bobby. Well, anyways, basically what the story is, Steve Cady, this dude, he works for the Census Bureau. He shows up at the town of Rockwell Falls, Population 436, and he has to go in and do the census stuff. He's got to talk to everybody in town. He has to get the history. He has to get the actual population. Is the 436 number accurate? Is there a baby on the way? Several babies on the way? All that typical census crap. And see, the thing is, what Steve doesn't know is that it's not a big deal if you visit Rockwell Falls, but it's a big deal if you visit Rockwell Falls and you stay the night, like he would be expectant to, because you would need to spend a few days there in order for him to do his job correctly. Once you stay the night in Rockwell Falls, that's it. You are now part of the town forever. So the population, unfortunately, grows from 436, obviously, to 437. And that's problematic. So they have a vote at the start, all the townspeople, and someone's wife, she's very willing, very happy to do this, she's been selected as this year's tribute. Whatever that means, you know she's going to die. But at this point, we're not 100%. So Steve's going around asking this, asking that, and he's starting to notice that this town, it puts a lot of importance on the number 436. There's a mythical sense to the number 436 in the town of Rockwell Falls. There's this whole religious thing in the background of Rockwell Falls that as the time passes and he spends more time in Rockwell Falls, that he begins to see that it's very cult-like, their obsession with the number 436. At one point, he's talking to one woman. He's helping her skin apples. And he's like, well, you know, after this, I'll be out of here in a couple days. And she's like, oh, I doubt it, Mr. Cady. And everyone's very polite. They can't let him leave. But everybody in Rockwell Falls are incredibly caring and decent individuals. Like, it's a really good town. Kind of stuck in time. It's like the 1950s never died there. But if that's your thing, you could be very happy in Rockwell Falls. But anyways, yeah, so, Fred Durst plays Bobby, the sheriff, the deputy. And I would just like to say that Fred Durst did an absolutely amazing job in this. I thought he was decent, caring, sympathetic. I thought, like I really believed the character of Bobby. Like, I felt for him. Because Steve, unfortunately, ends up falling for Courtney, who Bobby's had a thing for many years. But Courtney doesn't want to spend the rest of her life in Rockwell Falls. So that's kind of a problem for the people. They use a little bit of trepanation to deal with that. For anybody that doesn't know, it's where they bore a hole. It's a burr hole where they put a hole in the person's skull to alter them. I know that there's a more traditional use for it in a medicinal sense, like it's to relieve swelling or something on the brain or whatever. But anyways, trepanation is used in this in order to simplify a person. So it's essentially like a low-key lobotomy. And all the while, Steve is saying, hey, can't remember the name of the family. He's like, I got to talk to this family. Where is this family? And the mayor and everyone's like, oh, no, leave the family alone. They're very private people. They don't want, The problem with the family is that they wanted to leave, so they all needed to have the burr hole put in it, and they're re-educating them in the jail. Now, of course, again, that may sound a little nefarious. It's not. The town of Rockwell Falls, the powers that be in Rockwell Falls are left with little recourse when it comes to this sort of thing. If a family wants to leave, they can't. That's like 4 less than, that's going to be population 432. And that's problematic. Because if the number goes up and the number goes down, the town just ends up getting destroyed. There's nothing left. Like, I don't exactly know what happens, but I imagine some sort of biblical sort of fire and brimstone will reduce this town to ash if the population doesn't remain exactly at 436. So Steve's starting to figure out something's kind of weird here. And then they go to the little festival where the guy's wife is going to be the tribute. And sure enough, she's hung. And this freaks Steve right out. She's willing to be hung, too. Nobody's forcing anyone to do anything. And then he runs and he grabs, there's a little girl named Amanda. She was from the family. And all the while, you see, the problem is Steve has been having these really weird dreams about him in a car with Amanda. And there's a cross swinging, like a Catholic cross, like, the cross Jesus died on, swinging, hanging from like the rear view mirror. And then he wakes up and he doesn't know what that is. And everybody knows that he's been having the dreams. And the dreams are trying to tell him that if he leaves, he'll be killed. Not by the townsfolk, but sort of by the eternal powers that be, by the supernatural powers that are keeping everything, all the checks and balances going in the town of Rockwell Falls. And that's why they take to use trepanation, lobotomizing people essentially, so that they keep them simple, so that they don't try to leave, so that A, the people don't die, and then B, the town of Rockwell Falls doesn't die. So he grabs a little girl, Amanda. He goes to grab Courtney, but she's already been simplified. And you can tell it really hurts him too, because they were really getting into each other. But Courtney's just not there anymore, you know? Like, you know, what's that? The engine's running, but there's no one behind the wheel. That type of shit. She's a few bricks shy of a wall. So he grabs Amanda and he leaves, and then they're driving away in this truck, and then the dream comes true. He sees the cross, and then boom, they're hit by a semi and they're killed automatically. And the movie concludes with Steve's buddy, Frank, showing up a few days later, looking for him. And see, the thing is, the town is currently at population 435. So, because once the guy's wife gave tribute, that dropped it down to 436, but Steve being there replaced it, shot it back up to 436. But with Steve and then Amanda dying, well, no, that's right, it's down to 434. That's right. And then, so there must have been, can't remember how that works. But nevertheless, I know that they need Steve's buddy Frank at the end in order to restore the balance to Rockwell Falls. And that's how the movie concludes. And this was fun. This was a quiet movie. This was sort of like if they made a horror movie in Cabot Cove, you know? Cabot's Cove, like where Murder, She Wrote used to take place way back. It's a really quaint, quiet town. It was filmed somewhere, I think in Alberta or Manitoba. And I know they used part of some historic village out there. And the place is very cute, and the people are very nice, and they're very accommodating. But once you spend the night there, once you close your eyes and you sleep there, you can't leave there. And I loved this movie. I've loved this movie since I saw it way back in the mid-2000s, and I loved the fact that Fred Durst did such an incredible job in this. Whenever they have like a musician in a movie, you know, you're always kind of like, fuck, they're gonna wreck it. They can't act, you know? Like Gucci Mane in Spring Breakers. He can't act, like at all. At least I think it was Gucci Mane. I don't remember now. Well, the rapper they got in Spring Breakers, he couldn't act to save his life. So when they do that sort of thing, it's like, But Fred Durst, you could tell he was really pouring his heart and soul into this, and it paid off. I love him in this movie. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 7 minutes while I discuss the 2006 Canadian horror film, Population 436. Like always, if you like this review or you like this movie, don't forget to go out and do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, never forget that the world kicks so much more ass because you're in it. And no matter what you're going through, just don't give up. Find something to hold on to because it's going to get better and life is going to be fun again. You guys are amazing. Have a good night.